Hey guys, welcome to DreamCoin, where we show you how to invest for a better tomorrow. My name's Tyler, and today we're going to be doing a recap of all of the action on MRIN the past 2 weeks, showing anybody new coming into the stock why this has so much potential and how it ended up at this point with the short percentage it has. And I'm going to be giving some predictions going into next week with where I think the price could be based on when shorts either cover or don't cover with people looking at the stock. So for anybody unaware with Marin Software and the stock, this started seeing a large amount of irregular activity on June 24th. And this is when I first put out a video covering them. I thought both fundamentally and technically the stock was undervalued. I saw at least a minimum of $10 to $20 for fair value in the short term, with the long term it being over $45. They came out with this PR of a new project to allow Instacart ad integration for companies that use their platform. And this set off a domino effect that essentially just started getting bigger and bigger on this stock over what would be a period of time that would evolve into just an inconceivable event for a stock and its price action. From June 24th, this started seeing an increasing rise. It was trading for a long period of time under $2, and this news had it jump to a peak over $3 and it settled back under that $3 area. We get to June 25th, where there's seemingly more interest in the stock after it has already ran over 80% on June 24th from where it was trading prior. And then we get to Monday, June 28th, coming off of a weekend where this gaps up from a close of around $3.60 all the way up and into a peak around $7 on June 28th. So that is a huge price increase, especially with how much it's already run. And a lot of people were assuming that this was it. There was no way the stock could run more, as it had already gone up over 500%. And this is just obscene. There's no way anything else could go on with this stock. And then we get to our first big day on June 29th. Huge numbers coming in of both buy volume and different like squeeze upward patterns, where it ran from under $9 to over $14 at one point for a peak. And then after lunch, it ran even higher from where the lowest lunch dip was just under $12 and the stock went up to almost $19. Now you may be asking, how is this even possible to run this much here, let alone from the levels that this just hit on Friday, July 2nd? And there's a few things I'm going to be going over that describe why this is happening. And the first of these is going to be the volume averages for these days. The first thing I'm going to point out on this chart, since I have things highlighted, is that anything yellow is going to be over 100 million volume for the day, and anything in blue is going to be less than 1 million volume for the day. So if we go as far back to early June, they were lucky to even see 1 million volume when they're trading during the day. I mean, they had some days like the 14th only had 100,000 volume, which is extremely low. Even for a small cap, this is very little price action. But there was a ever rising increase going up into where we saw these volumes over 100 million. The first of these days is going to be June 23rd, where we saw 15 million volume, which if we compare back to June 16th is about 15 times more volume from a higher end of the average volume range on this stock. Now, what this means to me is I think there was some insider play going on, not necessarily in the company. It could just be people that were dealing in the company or any companies that knew that this might be going on, or anybody involved in that. There's just no other way I can think that this much volume would come in on this day before the news drops on the 24th. We get to the 24th, the news drops, and we've got almost 200 million volume on the day. So if you look back from June 16th, we have 200 times the average volume on the high end for this stock, which is just obscene. You don't see these numbers on generally any stock during a trading day unless there's huge hype around something like an FDA decision or anything like that. We get to June 25th, where it was still steadily climbing a little bit, and there was only 72 million volume, which is still a large amount by comparison for the volume on this and other stocks in the market. And then we get to June 28th and 29th, where they each consecutively on market market days, traded for over 300 million volume. Right now, June 29th is still the highest day total for volume out of all these days since it started running. And this was just an incredible run from a low of 831 to a high of 1882. And this signifies to me there has been an ever increasing interest in the stock. But there is something more we can look at with these numbers based on the short data that was happening during these times. We're going to compare the short percentage increases with the amount of volume that was coming in these stocks. And then this is going to help show and break down the story of how this stock has run so much and why this has some potential for just a insane squeeze going into next week. So as we're looking back on June 23rd on this, the estimated short interest percent of the free float was less than 1%. We had a 0.94% short interest. We get to June 24th where they dropped their PR and they spiked over $3, and you see a decent amount of short interest comes in. This is a 30% increase in the short interest percent. And you know, this would be reasonable on a stock. You saw it trading under $2 for a very long period of time. Are betting that it's going to come back down because the company historically hasn't traded very high. If they were lucky to trade above $2, it would just be for a short period of time. And so this looks like a safe bet, right? If you're short, this is going to go back down. There's no way I'm not going to make money on this. We get to June 25th, where it seems like some shorts have covered. We're down 13% to 17% short interest. And it looks like shorts are not too into shorting them as much anymore. And it looks like it was a safe cause because the stock did steadily rise through the day. It was probably just a lot of them saying, hey, I'm just going to cut my loss here. There's no point in taking this. It has some juice in it still. Let's just leave it be. We come off of Friday, June 25th, and the short interest is sky high right now compared to Friday. The short interest has gone from 17% to 99.45%. The volume was just ripping through that day. A lot of shorts were coming in, and the price was still on a steady incline going into the 29th. We get to the 29th, the day that this peaked very high for the first time, around $19, and we're up to 121% short interest. The shorts just keep piling in, they keep doubling down, and this is getting very possibly dangerous for a lot of these, frankly, because a lot of this short interest is again under that $10 area at this point in time. After this crazy run on June 29th, we see some declining action in after hours that carries into pre-market, and we see a significant decrease through to about $10 on June 30th. And a lot of people are freaking out at this point. They're thinking, oh, this is dead. There's no way. A lot of people are very bearish on this because obviously the stock's up like almost 800% at this point. There's no way this has anything left. And it looks like it's pretty dead, right? I mean, we've got this huge run from a stock that's traded under $2. There's no way conceivably that this could go any more or rebound from here. I was actually in my Discord telling people to keep their eyes on this at these levels because I saw this as a huge bounce opportunity. I had stated that it was most likely going to need to cool off. We saw this basically run in a way that this stock has never seen in a recent period of time, at least, where this was just ripping straight from that initial Instacart news that kept piling on and piling on and piling on for everybody that was interested in the stock. You can see June 30th here, this was reflected in a lot of the volume too, where it was only 56 million on the day. So we were about 6 times below the volume from the last 2 prior days. And this looks like a disinterest in the stock anymore. We don't have anybody else that's looking to come to the stock. It's dead, it's dying. There's no more that's left in this. But this is why we look at more data than just the charts. If we look at June 30th, where this just saw the major decline in the disinterest in the stock, seemingly, this went up about 40% in short interest to 156%. And this was huge. This was crazy to watch. And this was around the time I started digging more into the short interest percentage because I saw it rising rapidly. I saw a couple people that had floated some Ortex screenshots around when it was about 100% short interest. And this meant that the stock had added on 100% short interest in literally 3 market days, essentially, from when this stuff started ramping up. So this is obviously interesting, right? We've got to 156% short interest, already a higher short interest than GME had, had when it had initially squeezed earlier this year. And this looks like it was everybody just piling in and doubling down to, one, either get the stock price down, or two, capitalize on the price action, which obviously could be both at the same time. We get to Thursday, July 1st, and it has a pretty good pre-market. It jumps up and it goes from $10 roughly the day before and gets up to where it was trading above 12. It looks promising. We were getting pretty hype in the Discord. I was up at like 2 in the morning seeing some of this action on Webull during my morning, and this ended up screaming at open, giving us a new high for the last week and a half of almost $20. I had projected to people that I thought this was ready to bounce off the bottoms, and it ended up doing so. This is MRIN, this is ALF. They look very similar, except for MRIN had a higher run initially, and then their consolidations have been identical for another reverse back up. MRIN can hold this consolidation above 10 and go into tomorrow, July 1st, which is Thursday. If they get to that point and they retest the $18 resistance that happened last time, I'm going to be looking for new highs. And this had an insane day for the stock going into July 1st. This ended up trading 3 times the volume that it did on the 30th when it took its decline, and it had a high of $19.95. I had predicted that if more retail and other buyers started piling in again and brought back the volume that we saw last few days before the 30th, that we could be seeing a price of about $20 to $25 before any shorts really cover retrospectively, and that happened. And even with the stock screaming here, they decided to increase the short interest again, and this time it is up another 30%, where we're at 186% total short interest. It's actually updated into after hours, where this peaked over 200% for a period of time into the next trading day. And this brings us to Friday, where Friday was just absolutely crazy. It started ripping super early pre-market, was already up a couple bucks from the previous day's close, and then actually got to $20 during the pre-market itself before it opened. And it opened above $20, ran and hit a high of $25.54, and then it consolidated for a while and rebounded back from lows that hit under $20. This is a chart segment that I had set up for it, and I am estimating it for it to wedge approximately around Tuesday. So that's why I have this set up, and it's filling it out perfectly right now. But you can see we had 121 million volume on Friday, so ever increasing presence of buyers and everything with that. And the short interest is still 186%, with an actual positive and 18,000 borrowed shares increasing during that day. We've got an average cost to borrow of 367%, a utilization of 100, and the current shares that are short right now are estimated to be about 18.5 million at the time of me making this. I know a few other people have been asking and wondering actually about, well, why can't they just short more? Couldn't they technically naked share more? And the issue with that is they're running out of that ability to do so with their current resources. So they've only got 15,000 short shares available as of Friday's end, and this is a minuscule number in comparison to what they already have short. There's no way this would have like a significant part in the market, and really with this stock still moving up, it'd be dangerous to double down more anyway, in my opinion. But they've done it already, so why not do more if they get the opportunity, right? And then the short borrow fee rate here on Fintel is estimated to be 220%. So just imagine how deep red some of these shorts could be right now, with cost to borrow averages over 300% on some platforms, and Fintel even showing this over 200%, where say you're a big fund and you shorted around $9, this is currently sitting above $20, and you have a borrow rate of 220%. That is just asking for you to go bankrupt at that point if you continue to hold this down and don't cover. And if we look at the total short volumes and how they've been changing over time, they are just extremely high compared to where it's seen in the past, which is obviously very apparent with the trading history of the stock. On the 24th, we started seeing 53 million short volume. We saw a peak of 98 million on the 29th for short volume when it had its first run. And then even Friday, we still had over 32 million in short volume. And so this is still like a huge interest in where the shorts are just trying to keep this down, and it's just not working in their favor at the current moment. What makes this more interesting is the fact that you cannot trade options on this stock. So a lot of people would view that negatively. They're like, well, this can't gamma squeeze, this can't really go higher. But I have a counterpoint where this is actually bullish, and that case is the fact that people that are currently shorting the stock are going to have a harder time trying to cover their positions. They can't do straddles where they do long calls or anything like that to try to hedge their positions to make money back and make it not bleed as much for them. They can't use it to cover their positions faster, and there's this minimal they can do right now in terms of manipulating this. And what I assume is, I don't think it's a lot of the huge crazy hedge funds that you would think would be generally shorting a bad company. I think there's a lot of smaller, lesser known hedge funds or big money that has been trying to actively short this. And I think with the amount of volume going on right now in the stock, it is very naive to think retail is doing this. Although there's an estimate of about 11% institutional ownership, I think right now we're sitting about 20 to 25% because those numbers are delayed by a month. Retail and insiders even owning an estimated 70 to 80% of the stock usually aren't going to have the influence that larger money can have on this kind of thing. So I think what has been happening is that there are other bigger funds and bigger sources of money that are coming in. They realize the situation shorts are in with the ever increasing interest from the general trading population and the short interest against shorts. This is where the bigger money is now battling other bigger money to squeeze this up and burn them so they can make a good profit themselves. So I think options in this case are actually good, which leaves me to analysis of predictions going into next week. So as of now, I see a couple different scenarios of where this goes. And for the first one, we're going to assume the fact that shorts are getting scared and we're going to see a couple start to cover. So let's say we go into Tuesday, right? And some shorts start to cover early. It's going to start a panic effect if that starts going off, where other shorts might feel the need to do so as well, especially if the price is increasing and they are getting further underwater. It's going to be less and less affordable for them to hold this long. There isn't going to be much they can do to bypass that fact other than cover their positions. And this would set up for where I think the stock could be trading a minimum of $40 if shorts all start coming together and covering before retail is able to push the price too much higher off FOMO. My next scenario is going to be a little more bullish, where let's say the shorts are stubborn. They are saying, nope, this is going to burn out. Everybody's going to stop caring about it, whatever. We are coming off a 3-day weekend where there is going to be renewed interest in the market. More money is going to want to be bought into positions because you're going to have till the end of the week to play them out or do whatever. And we're going to be looking towards where we could be seeing the stock $25 to $30 holding, with just people buying in and people FOMOing as they circulate the information on social media, and this gets more known for what is the setup on the stock at the current time. This would put them in an area of $50 to $60, I think, if that is the case, and retail and other buyers are able to get this up to at least $30 before shorts cover. My last bull scenario is going to be an extreme one, because I've seen some very unrealistic numbers floating around social media. I know a lot of people want this stock to go to stupid high levels, but I've seen some crazy numbers where somebody is trying to do math and calculate this going to $3,000 a share, and that's just not, it's just not going to happen. There's just no way. There would have to be some crazy stuff going on for that to happen, and without options, I just don't see it. For me, I think a very maximum case for this is going to be $100, and the way that would work is we see a lot of that buy volume come in, shorts aren't covering yet, and then a lot of people FOMO and are building this up, and we get the stock just stupendous levels. You're talking like $30 to $40 trading just off of retail and people missing out and wanting in the stock before the shorts go in. And then you start seeing some shorts cover, and then you see more shorts cover, and then this gets violent and they start basically trying to race each other to get out so they're not screwed when they get to go on this. And then this is just going to be a violent, almost vertical leap where it's just screaming up. Think like when Orif a few weeks back went from under $10 to $77, and it was a period of like just one trading day for everything going on. But I think MRIN would be even more volatile, because this is just going to be an eruption of everything going on and the increased interest in what's going on with the stock. So in that scenario, I see it going to about $100 maybe, but that's going to be a very, very optimistic outlook, with everything just stars aligning and helping calling out those holding the stock. Now, I do want to outline the risks for this because a lot of people aren't sure on buying and what the downside could be. So right now for me, the downside is going to be roughly this $19 area. If it's going to bounce off my trend line, that's where it would be. It'd be covering around just over $19. And then underneath that, I'm going to be looking for about 17 from where it ran in pre-market on Friday. Even if it bounces off one of these and shorts haven't covered, this isn't going to be too bad of a scenario for me because they still have to cover, and they're more likely to cover if the price drops as well, seeing how much this is running. My suggestion for people that have missed out is to watch the stock and mitigate your risk. I think at this point, this is going to be a lottery ticket. If you're trying to buy in, you're essentially hoping basically everything goes perfectly right, and you can't assume that on the market. So I wouldn't just be throwing money at this expecting for a quick return, because there's no guarantee that that happens. And, you know, obviously weird things can happen, especially in the market. You know, we saw with how fast it was running before, we get the circuit breaker halts and everything like that. So those are things you need to keep in mind as we look at this. So if you're not already in this and you're looking to buy, I would make very good judgment on what you're trying to do with this and know how much you could possibly lose on this, so you're not putting like basically a down payment on your house towards the stock instead. I do think this has a very good chance next week. They also got added to the restricted stock list that deals with failed to delivers, and failed to delivers are basically a certain amount of shares were tried to be covered and they couldn't be delivered because the shares weren't available. There's a certain amount of consecutive days that actually can sit for, where if they don't cover their position by then, the brokerage is literally forced to cover their position and basically liquidate them. That's just another factor on an ever-growing due diligence case for this stock, and I think it has a huge run in it next week at some point. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving on the channel lately. A lot of you have come in because of my coverage on MRIN, so I am very grateful for you guys, and hopefully my future content can help you out with navigating the market as well. But this is going to be my playlist of my predictions thus far. You can go through and see how they lined up on each day with what was going on in the stock, and you can see how accurate I was down to dollar points of the price action in my previous videos and how I've been predicting the stock thus far. Other than that, that's going to do it for me in this video today, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.